Today, Friday the 8th of September, is the 80th anniversary of the Italian Armistice, when the Italians laid down their arms, and Allied prisoners in camps all over Italy had the chance to get away if they wanted to, and if their officers would let them. Sometimes they didn't, because this instruction had come from London for them all to stay put. Many of them decided to make a run for it, and quite rightly too, because the Germans moved very quickly south through Italy and overran most of the prison camps within 2 or 3 days. And the ones who had stayed behind, had stayed put, were stuck. The rest were on the run in Italy somewhere, and that's what we're celebrating today. We're celebrating the escapes, but most importantly, we're celebrating the incredibly brave Italian people, many of them terribly, terribly impoverished Italian farmers, who helped the prisoners for months on end in some cases, hid them, sheltered them, fed them, protected them from the Germans and from the fascists, and then help them on their way. So we have a lot to celebrate today. We are unveiling a plaque today. This is a joint effort by the Monte San Martino Trust and the Escape Lines Memorial Society. The British ambassador, Lord Llewellyn, is coming to unveil this plaque. He's bringing with him his defence attaché. We've got the American defence attaché as well. We've got the local mayor, we've got the prefect of the region, and we've got a lot of Italian dignitaries here too. It's a big day here in Servigliano, and we're all looking forward to it immensely. Last night was another extraordinary night. We had wonderful presentations from an Italian author who works for the Paris Institute, with whom we have a partnership arrangement, and she was talking about the conditions in the camps at the time. And you know, it's nice for all of us, particularly nice for Italian people, to think that, you know, it was all lovely and everybody got well fed and was well looked after. And she very openly and honestly acknowledged that conditions weren't great in these Italian camps. The Italians had not really been prepared for the vast number of prisoners that they picked up, Germans picked up in North Africa. So conditions were pretty tight and not at all pleasant in many of the camps. She was interviewed by a very well-known Italian broadcaster. We had lots of interest in that. And then we all repaired to a local restaurant, about 70 of us, for a fantastic, as usual, incredibly generous, very long Italian meal with lots of pasta, lots of vino, and lots of people exchanging stories about their fathers and their grandfathers and their uncles who'd been involved in all these great escapes. Many of them had been prisoners here at Servigliano, and they had an awful lot to say. And there were tears too. There was tears and laughter and a lot of fun. And we're kind of expecting more of the same once the ambassador has pulled the cord and revealed our wonderful plaque here on the wall of the prison at Servigliano.
I'd like to pay tribute to the amazing work you do, and keeping those memories and those stories alive. I know the story, Nick, of your own father is emblematic of so many of those stories, but I was reading, as I told you a moment ago, his diary as I was coming here this morning, and it including the part which ends over the beachhead at Anzio. And as they arrived at the beachhead at Anzio in a firefight, the 2 Italians who were helping them died. And the way in which that is recounted just brings home the courage and the sacrifice that we're commemorating here today. A great tribute to the work of the Escape Lines Memorial Society. I hope that your colleagues are coping on the hill. And a thought too today for all our veterans, so many of whom obviously are no longer with us, British, American, Allied. I have a thought today reading that story of Anzio, of Harry Schindler, I think the last surviving British veteran of Anzio, who actually lived here in Italy. We passed Porto d'Ascoli, I think, on the way up here, and I got to know him as Colonel Smith did over the last year. Sadly, he left us in February. But enough from me. a big thank you again, and look forward to the tour and seeing the former camp, but also the work you're going to do to make sure these memories live on forever, as they must.
Thank you. It's fantastic to be here today on this historic day, the 80th anniversary of the Armistice here in Italy, and to be here in Servigliano with the San Martino Trust. We've just spent the morning at the former prisoner of war camp, hearing the stories there, what happened when all the prisoners, or so many of the prisoners, escaped in the days after the Armistice. The ones who escaped were helped along the way by so many Italian families, Italian individuals who risked their lives, and many paid with their lives for the help that they gave to those former British prisoners of war. So it's so important, I think, to remember these stories, especially today of all days, and it's very moving to be here today with the San Martino Trust, whose mission is precisely that, to remember the stories of the prisoners of war, especially also of those Italians who risked everything to help them.
And then something quite extraordinary happened, unique in the history of war. All over Italy, in huge cities like Rome, and particularly in remote mountain areas, such as around here, Italian people took their former enemies and prisoners into their homes, gave them food and shelter, clothing and maps, advice how to avoid German patrols, and sent them safely on their way, or offered them the chance to stay and help on the farm.
Poi qualcosa di straordinario è successo, qualcosa di unico nella storia delle guerre. In tutta Italia, in città enormi come Roma, ma in particolare anche nelle aree montuose remote, gli italiani decisero di accogliere i precedenti nemici e i prigionieri nelle loro case, dare loro cibo, dare loro rifugio, dare loro vestiti e mappe, dare loro consigli su come evitare le truppe tedesche e riuscire a scappare in sicurezza, oppure offrirono loro la possibilità di restare in casa e aiutare con i lavori agricoli.
And it is this incredible generosity and bravery that we are here to remember today and to celebrate. We've come from Britain and America and Australia and New Zealand to thank you, the Italian people, for what your families did to help our fathers and grandfathers.
Oggi siamo qui riuniti per celebrare questa incredibile generosità e l'incredibile coraggio che i vostri precedenti parenti hanno avuto nei confronti di noi. Noi siamo venuti dalla Gran Bretagna, dall'America, dall'Australia e dalla Nuova Zelanda per ringraziarvi, per ringraziare il popolo italiano e le vostre famiglie per quello che avete fatto ai nostri padri e ai nostri nonni.
This weekend's meant a lot to myself. The diary that my uncle kept during the war years was returned to the family in 1946 after his death, fighting with the partisans. So it's pretty much like losing a family member to myself, but in a nice way. I know it's going to a very good home, and I know it'll be used for educational purposes in the future. The decision's been coming for. I've been thinking about it for 25 years now, and I know it's going to the right place. The diary's gone full circle. It was actually made in this prisoner of war camp, even though my uncle was in it for only a year. He carried it with him until he had to join the partisans, which he couldn't take anything with him. It was buried in a tin box, and in 1946, it returned home. We believe it was sent by the family that housed him in Casino Torinese. They sheltered him and one other, Ron Dix, for over a year. So, you know, my thanks go out to the Italian people. This year's just been a wonderful year. It's brought closure on Robert's life, something which, you know, I'd hoped for, but never expected. It's going to the right home, and I'll know they'll do good with it for future generations. Robert put a mast on the front of the diary, and he called it Servigliano Calling. Last year, I was looking at the diary prior to going to Milan, and it just struck me that the diary had been transmitting. Robert was transmitting out, but I just came to the conclusion that now it was receiving that aerial mast, and Servigliano was calling. So the diary really has found its own home.
So the other really key organisation that we have worked with and partnered with to create this event is the Casa della Memoria, represented here today by Giuseppe Milozzi, his colleagues Giordano, Biozzi and Paolo. You have experienced their incredible amount of research that they do, the communication that they do about this period that we're all so interested in, to keep the memory of what happened alive. And I think we've all really appreciated, haven't we, just the talks and the films, the incredible films that we saw yesterday, everything that has been put on for us by the Casa della Memoria. We're really, really grateful and so proud and honoured to be your partners. Tonight with us a very, very important person here tonight, who is in fact Giuseppe's father, Antonio Milozzi, who is our representative and has been from the very beginning representative in Italy of the Trust. A great friend of Keith Kilby. He was instrumental in setting up the Trust administratively here in Italy and helping Keith in that way. He's been an absolute stalwart representative for us over many years. He's been given an honorary MBE for all his work in the Trust, which is a very rare thing to non-British nationals, but in recognition of all the work for its Italian-British relations through the Trust. So I would like to say to Antonio, ti saluto. Antonio, please stand. A huge thank you to all of you for coming. Some of you, such a long way. We have Dennis to thank for many of you coming all the way from the States, from Australia, from Canada. It's really been such a blessing and really a wonderful time to connect, hasn't it, with people from all over the world. And I hope that friendships and connections that have been formed here and started here will continue for many years to come. So big thank you to you. But we always, in the Trust, like to end on a very, very special thank you. And I think you will know, well, we're not actually ending because we're doing something exciting afterwards, by the way. But this is almost the ending. So if you have a glass, and even if you don't, just raise it. I would like you to raise your glass, please, to the Italian people, everyone.
I'm Letitia Blake, I'm the Secretary of the Monte San Martino Trust, and I'm speaking to you today from the beautiful village of Monte San Martino, after which we are named. We are in the Largo Keith Kilby, which is a beautiful small square that was dedicated and named after Keith Kilby, our founder, in 2019. So we're really here to remember Keith on this beautiful day. We're quite tired after all our events of celebrating and marking the 80th anniversary of the Armistice, with 70 of our supporters and many Italian friends joining us. And we're here today on a very peaceful Monday morning, the 11th of September, to remember Keith in this beautiful place and to be grateful for him and all that he's done in setting up the Trust, and of course, more importantly, in gratitude to all the Italian helpers who helped my father and many others when they were escaping after the Armistice.